The air cuts like a blade when victory is about to reveal itself. There is a second, perhaps less, in which everything you have achieved can be lost, and everything that seemed distant can finally fall into your hands. It is in this fragile, cruel, and perfect instant that many crumble, not because they lack strength, but because they fail to grasp what is truly at stake. Have you ever felt this? That strange mix of euphoria and fear, like you're standing before a door about to open on its own? Your heart races, your mind creates scenarios, but your body carries a silent truth. It knows before you do whether to hold on or let go. The risk isn't in what you imagine, but in what you transmit without realizing it. It's like a flickering light bulb. Even if there's still light, the inner wire betrays the fault. The same is true of approaching opportunity. If your presence isn't tuned, it fades before it can shine. With every breath, you announce to the world whether you're ready or not. It's not your strength that convinces. It's not your words that guarantee. It's the invisible state you project that decides whether the tide turns in your favor or against it. So why do so many lose their way right on the brink of conquest? Because they confuse control with power, effort with attunement. They want to push the door open violently, but the lock only responds to one frequency. Imagine an ancient, heavy safe that spins without opening for eager hands. The secret is not strength, but rhythm. An almost imperceptible rhythm that separates failure from revelation. And that's exactly the rhythm you're in right now. What happens when you breathe at the wrong time? Opportunities disappear. What happens when you find the right cadence? Reality gives way, as if it had been waiting for the signal. And the question that won't go away, right now, as you read these words, what does your state reveal, victory or noise? Because the choice isn't made tomorrow. It's already being written inside you, right now. There comes a moment when silence speaks louder than any words. You feel your entire body vibrate, as if life were on the verge of delivering something that has always been hidden, waiting only for the right moment. But with this promise comes risk, the fear that everything will dissolve into thin air before it even reaches your hands. That's where the real battle lies, not against the world, but against the invisible instability that each of us carries within. Think about the last time you faced a real opportunity. I'm not talking about small chances, but the ones that make your heart race and your mind create 1,000 futures at once. Maybe it was an unexpected encounter, a yes you didn't expect to hear, a moment when it seemed like all the pieces finally fell into place. Remember how the air felt different, as if even your breath betrayed the magnitude of it. It's in that split second that you decide whether you become greater than the moment or if the moment swallows you up. It's curious how no one teaches us how to sustain this threshold. We learn to chase, to accumulate, to plan, but almost never to remain stable when life finally delivers. That's why so many find themselves sabotaging their own victory, as if something inside doesn't believe it's possible to hold on to what they've always wanted. The body trembles, the voice falters, and the chance slips through our fingers, leaving only the bitter taste of the question, what if I had managed to hold on? But there are also those who, in this same space of uncertainty, discover another stance. They don't push, they don't force, they don't try to grasp the moment with desperation. They simply sustain presence, like someone looking at the sea and understanding that the wave comes on its own. This is why so many people choose to stay here, following each revelation, because they feel something begin to align within them, almost effortlessly. The thing is, this alignment isn't luck, it's not chance. It's a silent choice, made in the way you occupy your body and the way you breathe amidst the pressure. Victory isn't achieved by shouting, but by the frequency you transmit when no one is watching. And it's precisely at this point, where everything seems to slip away and, at the same time, everything can open, that a key reveals itself, discreet and transformative, ready to change the entire course of history. And when this presence is shattered, the consequences aren't just external. The body feels it first. The heart races for no apparent reason, breathing becomes shallow, shoulders stiffen as if carrying an invisible weight. And in this state, every gesture becomes noise. It's like trying to hold a delicate crystal with trembling hands. No matter how careful you are, the pressure of fear shatters it in seconds. The cruelest thing is that, from the outside, no one notices this silent struggle. Everyone only sees the missed opportunity, the chance that didn't materialize, the silence that followed. But inside, you know there was a moment, a glimmer of choice that could have changed everything. This memory weighs heavily. It's like walking with an echo that insists on repeating, You let it slip away. And it's precisely this echo that, little by little, shapes the way you see the world. Each new door seems more fragile. Each possibility comes with the shadow of a previous failure. Hope and fear begin to dance side by side, like two clashing tides. One whispers that now will be different. The other screams that nothing has changed. In this clash, powerful images emerge. The horizon is open and golden, but always with dark clouds lurking. The fire that warms, but burns if not sustained. The gaze that shines with belief, yet at the same time wavers because it fears losing again. These are contrasts that coexist in the same body, as if victory and downfall breathe together within the chest. And perhaps that's why so many people feel exhausted, as if they're stuck on an endless tightrope. One false step, and everything collapses. But it's precisely in this instability that a key is hidden. A key that lies not in plans, nor in the right words, but in something more intimate, almost secret. Something that hasn't yet been fully revealed, but that begins to pulse like a discreet signal, announcing that the revelation is closer than it seems. And there's a detail that almost no one realizes. Tension arises not only from the fear of loss, but also from the weight of finally receiving it. The body trembles before what it has always wanted because, silently, it wonders if it will be able to sustain it. Conquest isn't just victory, it's responsibility. It's like opening a door and feeling that behind it lies a space larger than you imagined. A space that demands total presence to avoid getting lost in it. Perhaps you've felt this before. An encounter that could change your life, a word that held promise, a moment when it seemed everything you asked for was right there, right in front of you. Your heart wanted to move forward, but something inside held you back. As if you were afraid not only of emptiness, but of fulfillment. This duality is brutal, desiring intensely and, at the same time, hesitating before your own wish is fulfilled. And when this hesitation arrives, the moment hangs in the air, dense, almost palpable. Every sound around seems distant, every second drags on as if being observed from outside. It is in this space that many feel the urge to support this journey, leaving a silent signal that the message has touched them, as if saying to themselves, I am present, I am still here. This gift is rare. And the rarer it is, the more fragile it seems. But perhaps fragility isn't the enemy. Perhaps it's what reveals the importance of what's at stake. The glass that can shatter is also the one that reflects the most light. The silence that seems empty is the same one that holds the words yet unspoken. Vulnerability can be the gateway to a strength you've never known. Look within now, not as someone seeking immediate answers, but as someone recognizing the value of the interval, of the breath, of the almost. There is something in this almost that speaks louder than any certainty. It is in this interval that a passage is drawn, still hidden, but about to open up in greater depth than the mind could dare imagine. It is in this almost, in this space between what seems within reach and what still eludes, that life reveals its most enigmatic face. The heart beats with the promise of conquest, but along with it arises the whisper of risk, reminding us that nothing is guaranteed. It is like walking across a narrow bridge, suspended over a deep abyss. On one side, the light of arrival, on the other, the darkness that calls by the name of fear. Each step is a choice, each breath a silent vote on which force will guide the next movement. Sometimes it feels like being in a dark room with only a sliver of light shining through the window. The light is small, but enough to awaken the certainty that there is something beyond. And yet, how many remain motionless, paralyzed by the fear of not reaching the door before the light disappears? The mind insists on creating phantoms. What if the door closes? What if, as I pass through, the space is larger than I can hold? This contrast is inevitable. Hope lifts the gaze, but fear pulls it down. Victory seems possible, but the memory of the fall still burns like an open wound. It is in this territory of opposing forces that not only the outcome but also the very identity of those who traverse it is decided. Because every choice, even silent ones, carves an invisible mark on who you become. And there's an even deeper detail. It's not just the conquest or loss that matters, but how you inhabit the moment. Silence can be a suffocating enemy, or it can be a revelation in disguise. Waiting can feel like punishment, or it can be preparation for something that doesn't yet dare to reveal itself fully. It's in this perspective, in the way you interpret the interval, that reality begins to tilt. And maybe, just maybe, it is at this suspended point that something unexpected is about to emerge, something that depends not on force or control, but on a tuning so discreet that almost no one notices it, until it is too late to turn back. And the deeper you delve into this gap, the clearer it becomes that it's not just about winning or losing, but about how the self reveals itself in the face of limit. The moment that seemed like just an opportunity begins to show other sides. It speaks to how you deal with waiting, with uncertainty, with the vulnerability of not having complete control over what's about to happen. It's as if life holds up an invisible mirror and asks, without words, who are you when nothing is guaranteed? The images overlap within you. On one side, light pours in through a crack, promising an open field, a clear horizon, and the sensation of breathing fully. On the other, the shadows lengthen, bringing back memories of ancient falls, closed doors, and voices that told you it wasn't possible. And so you find yourself in the midst of a scene where sun and night compete for space in the same sky. This contradiction pulsates not only in your mind, but throughout your entire body. Some describe this sensation as walking barefoot on cold ground, knowing that the warmth of a flame will soon arrive. Others feel it as a lump in their throat, a mixture of a choked word and a scream that insists on being born. The truth is that each person translates this contrast differently, but they all recognize the same force, the territory between what has already passed and what has not yet arrived. It's in this space that movements become slow, almost sacred. Each gesture seems to carry double the weight, each breath echoes as if heard beyond the body. You realize you're not just living an instant, you're touching a threshold where hope and fear dance together, pressing and releasing in rhythms that follow no logic. And yet, behind this oscillation, there is a silent promise, like a distant sound that insists on calling. It doesn't show itself completely, doesn't reveal itself directly. It simply pulses, discreetly, reminding us that there is something greater waiting to be seen, something that insinuates itself like a bated breath, ready to become a revelation. And when that suspended breath begins to lengthen, you realize the impact isn't limited to the moment. Small, almost invisible gestures create consequences that accumulate over time. The way you maintain silence in the face of uncertainty, the way your body positions itself when there are no guarantees, all of this generates effects that spread like ripples on a lake. Sometimes it's a detail so subtle that no one around you notices, but you feel the difference in how the environment responds. It's like planting a seed without knowing whether it will bloom tomorrow or months from now. Each conscious breath, each choice not to give in to the noise, creates space for something to sprout. And little by little, you see signs. Conversations that flow unexpectedly, doors that seemed closed begin to creak, people around you reacting differently to your presence. Reality reorganizes itself around the state you sustain, and that state is more eloquent than any words. The contrast is stark. When action springs from anxiety, the response is often brief and unstable, like a fire that ignites and then dies out. But when the movement comes from the center, from what remains even in the midst of chaos, the response multiplies, sustains, and echoes. It's the difference between forcing a river to flow and simply removing the rocks blocking its course. The water already knows where to go. And that's precisely where the tension grows. Because realizing this power is not only liberating, it's also challenging. Knowing that every pause, every silence, every tiny choice alters how the world responds can be dizzying. It's like walking through a city that once seemed indifferent and suddenly realizing that every window opens to the exact pace you take. Many, upon realizing this, feel the urge to share what they're experiencing, to put into words the change pulsing within. It's at this point that comments appear almost like confessions, reflections of those who recognize themselves in this journey. And perhaps you, too, feel the urge to record the word or image that crossed your mind just now, not as a final answer, but as a sign that you were present in this very suspended moment, breathing along with the revelation that is yet to come. And as the ripples of these choices spread, the surrounding landscape takes on new forms. What once seemed static begins to move, almost imperceptibly at first, like leaves swaying at the first sign of wind. Small shifts in attitude, different looks, responses that emerge from unexpected places. All of this creates a picture you might not be able to name immediately, but which already carries a portent of transformation. And yet, along with this foreboding also comes the inevitable presence of obstacles. They aren't visible walls, but subtle detours, doubts that arise uninvited, memories of past failures, inner voices that whisper that perhaps you're deluding yourself. It's at this point that hope and challenge intertwine, creating a field of tension where each step is both affirmation and test. Imagine crossing a long road at dawn. Fog covers part of the path, but in the distance, a golden light announces the sun. You advance cautiously, knowing that with each meter you travel, your vision clears. Still, uncertainty accompanies each step, reminding you that not everything is revealed. It's this mix, clarity and shadow, confidence and hesitation, that keeps the intensity of the journey alive. There are moments when progress becomes evident, like when a simple gesture generates an unexpected and positive reaction. But soon after, the weight of an obstacle appears, making the heart waver. It is in this interplay of advances and retreats that true progress happens, not as a straight line, but as an irregular dance, where each beat is both a conquest and a challenge. And it is precisely this dance that keeps the mind awake. Because at the same time that something is being constructed, something also seems to test the consistency of what is being born. The thread stretches, vibrates, threatens to break, but remains. And deep down, there is a feeling that all of this is merely preparation for something greater, something that has not yet fully revealed itself and that continues to insinuate itself, like a secret on the verge of being revealed. And as this journey continues, you realize that it's not just the path ahead that changes, but also the way the world looks back at you. The reflection no longer comes solely from the external mirror, but from what reveals itself within, as if each step amidst uncertainty were also a silent excavation. The glimmer of hope mingles with the weight of doubt, and this mixture creates a terrain where nothing is entirely clear, yet everything seems charged with meaning. Sometimes it's like walking down a long corridor, lit by small flames that flicker with every gust of wind. The light is enough to keep you from getting lost, but not enough to see everything. Each shadow cast by the walls takes on strange, almost threatening contours, and yet it's impossible not to move forward. Because along with the fear, there's also the call of clarity, insisting that the next step may reveal something decisive. This contrast is repeated in every detail. The heart that expands in the moment of trust is the same one that contracts at the first sign of resistance. The silence that comforts one moment becomes a heaviness the next. And in the midst of this oscillation, you begin to understand that perhaps there is no such rigid separation between gain and loss, light and shadow, advance and retreat. Perhaps everything is part of the same fabric, sewn by invisible threads that can only be felt when one passes through with total presence. What seemed like a mere challenge also reveals itself as a mirror. Each obstacle arises not only to block, but to measure the consistency of what is being built. And this realization, while bringing clarity, also increases tension. If each choice shapes the terrain, what will be the next contour that emerges? Time, at this point, no longer feels like a sequence. It's more like a breath caught between inhaling and exhaling. A suspended instant, in which everything seems to fit within a single breath. And it is in this suspension that the question remains unanswered, like a still-closed portal, promising that true unfolding will only begin when the threshold is finally crossed. And then, in that moment when everything seems suspended, you realize that the journey wasn't just about getting somewhere, but about becoming someone capable of sustaining their own path. The doubt that once weighed heavily transforms into silent clarity, not as a definitive answer, but as the certainty that you already carry within you the key you sought outside. The contrast between fear and confidence, falling and conquering, finally reveals its function. It was fear that shaped your presence, it was fear that sharpened your gaze to see what previously went unnoticed. It's like emerging from a narrow, dark tunnel into an open field where the air feels lighter and the horizon stretches limitlessly. Your entire body breathes differently, as if remembering that it's not just survival, but creation. Each step resonates with a new force, not because the path has become easy, but because you've learned to walk steadily even through uncertainty. This transformation isn't loud. It happens in subtle silences, in the way you face your own thoughts, in the unexpected calm in the face of a challenge, in the subtle gleam others begin to notice in your eyes. It's at this point that true privilege is understood, not just to be faced with a revelation, but within it, participating in something that unfolds at the very moment you breathe. And perhaps that's why so many people choose to mark their presence, leave a sign that they've been touched, share words that reflect what they felt. Not as an obligation, but as a natural part of this experience, as someone who wants to keep alive the frequency they discovered here. By liking, commenting, and staying, you're not just supporting a message, but confirming to yourself that something has changed, that you're committed to sustaining this new cadence. The journey never ends, because it was never about an endpoint. It was about remembering that every achievement is born of contrast, Every lesson learned hides in the shadows before revealing itself in the light. And it is with this understanding that you leave here not just as a spectator, but as part of something greater, breathing together, transforming together, aware that you were privileged to be present at the exact moment the revelation became yours too.